I'm Ramses, I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a white trans man. For those of you who can see me, I'm blonde, I wear blue jeans, leather jacket, and a t-shirt with written Proud on it.
Hold the microphone closer to your mouth, please. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, so in about, less than 12 hours now, I'll be 26-year-old. And for many people, that number doesn't mean much. No particular significance. It's not even a great number. 25 was probably more significant from that point of view. 25 years was 7 years after I thought I would get killed after coming out. It was 10 years before the average trans person gets murdered. And last year for me, after years of depression and PTSD, 25 years was the first time I thought about it as 1/4 of my life. So what's different now? I came out for the first time when I was 13. I don't remember the date. I remember it was the week before my birthday. I didn't realize how important it would be at the time, so I didn't record the date or how I felt about it or the words that I used. I never really kept track of it. So from tomorrow, I'm going to have lived longer as Ramses than whoever I was pretending to be before. From tomorrow, I'm going to have spent half of my life as who I really am. I learned the word trans by accident. I grew up without knowing what that meant. I had been told my identity was a label for sex workers, a pun, a swear word. The moment I realized who I was, I thought that my life was over. I wasn't allowed joy, and no one ever told me, no one taught me that my transness, my community, would bring me that, would bring me joy. No one taught me pride. No one taught me what happiness is okay for me. They didn't teach me anything, but they warned me about a lot of things. They warned me about my body, about coming out, about I would never get married, I would never have kids, never have a job, how I would mutilate my body, and how being myself would make me miserable. So when I moved here in the UK, I could finally breathe. I was out of my toxic family, I was out of my conservative hometown, and I thought that for the first time I could be myself and start from scratch. And then I started connecting with the local community, and I realized a lot of things. First of all, I realized that at 26, I'm still considered a trans elder. And even if my medical transition was recent, I could feel a divide in the community. So I started asking myself, what now? I go what I want, I started my medical transition, I'm getting married, I've got a house, so what's next for me? And when I moved here, I thought I would stop fighting. I had fought my whole life just to get here, and I thought I didn't have that energy anymore. I was struggling to survive. And compared to my country, the UK felt like a breath of fresh air. I could be in the streets without fearing for my life. I could use my name at university without worrying too much about it. And that shows me that UK has potential. There's will, there's a community. And then I started seeing it. And it took me a while, because bigotry in the UK is subtle. It's hidden behind smiles, behind questions. It's masked as curiosity, as willingness to help. But the willingness to help is always conditional. Transphobia in the UK is different from where it comes from. It's not in your face. It's got layers. It's intersectional. It's targeted at marginalizations and demographics within the community. It's exorcistic and trans misogyny. It's sexism. It's transmedicalism. It's ageism. It's ableism. And it's so that we settle for a compromise. But our identities are not a compromise. Our identities are not fodder from newspapers or debates on the BBC. Transphobia in the UK is othering. It makes you feel alone. It's turning lives into opinions. It's polls on someone else's rights and existence. It's consultations. It's taking away agency rights from our children. It's holding us to new standards of femininity and masculinity, and it's putting us in boxes and forcing us to fight each other. It's forcing us to think that we only got so much fight left in us, and that we will have to take what we're given and stop complaining. It's exporting a writer's transphobic traits to be used as case studies in courts in the US. And it's forcing us to settle for less. for a discount and an online form instead of recognizing other identities, instead of providing life-saving care, instead of giving us back control of our bodies through self-ID. But we're not settling, and we're not fighting each other. We're standing up against a system that pushes one narrative. And that narrative that we're not people, we don't exist, we're delusional. That there's always been something more relevant, and that's going to be an obstacle for our identity, for our transness, and for our right to happiness. That we should be grateful. Well, I'm not grateful. I'm not grateful that my safety depends on me passing, or being misgendered, or being polite while being abused. I'm not grateful that my siblings don't have my gender recognized, or that my partners don't have their gender on their IDs. I'm not grateful that people die while waiting for access to trans healthcare. I'm not grateful we're being murdered. I'm not grateful we're forcing kids to go through puberty that will make them suicidal. I'm not grateful that after years of fights and consultations and discourse and debate, people still wonder if we really exist and if we really deserve the rights that the rest of the UK population has. I'm not grateful that we're forced to take a backseat while people take decisions about our lives without listening to our voice. And this is why we're here. This is why we're making our voice heard. And any time that I have to step on the stage, I truly hope that the system will be on our side. And for the right reasons this time. I came here thinking I could survive, and I did. But we're not just supposed to survive. We're not supposed to endure abuse and hate and hope to make it. Getting at the end of the day shouldn't be something worth a celebration. We are allowed to take space. We're allowed to try. We deserve it. We're allowed to serve with our pride and our joy. And we're allowed space to mourn and grieve. We're allowed to push back on these issues that don't represent what we need. We're allowed to speak up about injustice in the communities. We're allowed to speak up, and we're allowed to fight. And I'm not done fighting. The road is long. The stakes are high. Thank you.
Hi there. So, just before we continue, if any of you on the left-hand side are struggling to hear, I've heard there's an audio issue, so if you want to move to the right, you should be able to hear better, alright? Fantastic. So next, I'd like to welcome on our next speaker, Kate G, whose pronouns are she, her.